All right, friends, so you know how Steelers defensive coordinators have basically always worked the same way, standing on the sideline right in the middle of it all with the players between series? That's just kind of been the norm around the league for a long time. But Patrick Graham just came out this week and said he's doing it different. And it's not some small detail either. It actually changes how he sees the game and how he trusts the guys around him to get it done. I'm not going to break down exactly what it is right here, but I'll tell you, once you hear his reasoning, it's going to make a lot of sense for how this defense operates in year one under him. So stay with me, because in this video, I'm also going to get into how Mike McCarthy has been developing Will Howard and Drew Allar and where that quarterback room actually stands right now. Hello, Steelers fans. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So let me get into why Patrick Graham is actually making this move, because it's not some random preference, there's real thinking behind it. He's been doing this job for 8 years now, coordinator stops with the Dolphins, the Giants, the Raiders, and now here in Pittsburgh, and he's done it both ways, from the sideline and from up in the box. And when you actually hear him talk about it, you get why he leans toward the box. He said, and I'm going to give you his exact words here, "It's just more calm up there. You've got your sheet spread out there, you're going to your different grids to make your calls." I mean, think about that for a second. When you're up there, you're not getting jostled around, you're not dealing with the noise and the chaos of the sideline. You've got your whole operation laid out in front of you like a control room. That's the picture he's painting. But here's the real reason it matters, and this is the part I think fans are going to appreciate once they understand it. From up in that booth, Graham can see the offensive personnel groupings way before the snap happens. Like, he gets a jump on it that you just don't get from field level. He's actually said he feels for any assistant who's had to do that job for him over the years down on the ground, because it's not easy work. And look, he's admitted himself that he can get a little pushy over the headset trying to get that formation info as fast as possible. He's had to go back after games and tell his own coworkers, "Look, I wasn't yelling at you, that's just how I sound when everything's moving that fast in real time." And honestly, I respect that kind of honesty from a coordinator, because it tells you he's locked in. He's not just going through the motions. Now here's where it connects to something bigger about this coaching staff. Graham isn't up in that box worrying about what gets lost because he's not down on the field talking face-to-face with players. And the reason he's not worried is because he trusts the guys around him. He specifically named Joe Whitt Jr., Jason Simmons, and Scott McCurley as the ones connecting with the players on the ground while he's working through the schematics upstairs. And this isn't new for him either. He coached with Whitt, Simmons, and McCurley back in Green Bay in 2018, and with Simmons again in 2022 and 2023 out in Las Vegas with the Raiders. So this trust isn't built overnight. This is years in the making. Here's how Graham put it himself. It starts with having trust with the coaches down on the field. Having familiarity with Simmons is big. Having familiarity with Scott is big, because you're trusting them to get the message relayed. And then I'm working through it with the new coaches, whether it's CJ Ayu, Domata Peko, Sean Howe, them getting a feel for what I need conveyed down there to the players. I would say me being in the box is about being comfortable for me, but it's also a credit to the assistant coaches that can convey the message for me, and then rally the guys when we need to rally them. And I mean, that right there tells you everything about how this whole defensive operation is built. It's not one guy trying to do everything himself. It's a system built on trust, and Joe Whitt Jr. in particular is playing a huge role in making sure that system works down on the sideline. Now, beyond the schematics and the communication system, there's another side to Graham that I think is honestly kind of refreshing. When it comes to motivating players, he doesn't really see himself as some fire and brimstone type of coach. He said, "I don't think of myself as trying to motivate people. I tell people all the time, I was broke before. I don't need motivation. I have kids. I might try to inspire people, but then you look at these men in terms of their age and where they're at in their lives, I'm sure they're all pretty motivated, so I assume the energy's there." And honestly, I respect that kind of honesty from a coordinator, because it tells you he's locked in. He's not just going through the motions. And that ties right into how he wants his players to actually approach the game itself. 6 days a week, football's a job for these guys. It's meetings, it's film, it's grinding through practice. But on game day, 20 times a year, he wants them to remember it's still their game, the one they fell in love with. He wants them to be themselves out there and just enjoy it, remembering they're literally living out the dream they had as kids. And Graham himself said it best when talking about the pressure of doing this at the highest level, going against the best athletes in the world. He said, "The pressure of the NFL, going against the best athletes in the world out there doing it, I love it. I love it." And you can just tell, this guy genuinely loves being in that seat, whether it's from the box or down on the ground. Now let me tell you, when Graham first took over as coordinator, people around him, teammates, fellow coaches, they used words like adaptable, evolving, fluid to describe how he operates. And now that we're actually seeing it play out on the field, it's clear he's bringing a completely fresh set of eyes to this whole unit. TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith have been flip-flopping between spots at outside linebacker, and Nick Herbig, who just locked in a new contract, is looking like a real wild card, somebody who can line up on the edge or slide inside depending on what the defense needs that snap. And there's a quote here that I think really sums up what kind of mind Graham has for this stuff. Elandon Roberts, who actually played under him last year with the Raiders, called him a brainiac for football. And get this, Roberts doesn't even think the system he played in last season with Graham is the same one he's bringing here to Pittsburgh. That tells you this guy isn't just running the same playbook wherever he goes. He's building something specific for the pieces he's got right here. And speaking of pieces, the possibilities on this defense get even bigger once Jalen Ramsey is fully back and providing that X-factor presence in the secondary. You put that kind of versatility in the back end together with a front seven that can move guys around at will, and you've got a defense that's genuinely hard to predict. It's a malleable roster matched with a play caller who thinks the same way, and that combination showed itself already out on the grass at Chuck Noll Field during camp. Now, switching over to the other side of the ball for a second, because there's been a lot of development happening at quarterback too, and I think it connects to the overall theme of this team building depth the right way. Going back to when the Steelers first left for St. Vincent College, one of the biggest questions on everyone's mind was about the two young quarterbacks, Will Howard and Drew Allar. Could you actually develop both of them at the same time, get enough reps for the backups too, and still have enough snaps to go around for 4 quarterbacks total? And under Mike McCarthy, the answer's been a clear yes. They ran 2 fields at once, 11 on 11, with McCarthy calling plays for both Howard and Allar, and carving out quarterback-specific training time whenever he could during individual drills. Assistant General Manager Andy Weidl actually spoke to McCarthy's record with developing quarterbacks, going all the way back to when Weidl saw it firsthand in New Orleans back in 2000. He said McCarthy was the offensive coordinator there, and senior offensive assistant Frank Cignetti Jr. was on that staff too. Weidl pointed to how they developed Jake Delhomme during that stretch, watching him grow before he left in free agency and went on to help elevate Carolina to the Super Bowl. Weidl said McCarthy did a great job with that development, and honestly, it's a pretty good sign for what's happening with Howard and Allar right now. Now let's talk about the passing game, because this is where you can really see a season's worth of chemistry paying off. Aaron Rodgers and his returning pass catchers are clearly on the same page this time around, and that's been obvious from the very first practice in Latrobe. Michael Pittman Jr. and Jeremy Bernard are still going to contribute, no doubt about that, but Rodgers has looked like he's got an even stronger connection running it back with guys like DK Metcalf, Pat Freiermuth, Roman Wilson, and Darnell Washington. It wasn't all smooth sailing that first season together. Rodgers wants his routes run a certain way. Pre-snap coordination matters a ton to him, and communication has to be locked in. But this time around, it's clicked fast, whether it's short throws, intermediate stuff, or shots down the field. Andy Weidl talks specifically about Roman Wilson's growth, saying it's year 2 with Aaron, so the relationship, you can see the chemistry on the field. You guys have been up there to watch him. He's playing fast, he's playing with confidence, he's winning matchups. And honestly, that's exactly the kind of jump you want to see from a guy heading into year 2 in that offense. Now let's close this out talking about the future of this roster, because some real foundational pieces are getting locked into place. Nick Herbig and Darnell Washington already cashed in on their improvement back in June with new 5-year deals. And now there's one more piece locked in through the rest of the decade, defensive tackle Keeanu Benton. Benton was waiting on that extension, knowing negotiations were happening behind the scenes, and he might have had some nerves about it. But instead of letting it distract him, he put his head down, kept working, fit in wherever Graham needed him in that defensive front, and built a relationship with new position coach Damata Pecco and defensive assistant Sean Ha. So between Herbig, Washington, and now Benton, the Steelers have got a real core locked in for years to come, and that future is starting to come into focus right in front of us. So look, between what Patrick Graham's building on defense and what Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers are building on offense, this team's got a lot more shape to it than people give it credit for right now. I'll keep bringing you the updates as camp wraps and the season gets closer. If you enjoyed breaking this down with me, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one.